Hello parishioners and friends, this is Father Allyn with another cooking video. I know the last time I mentioned that I would be at some point doing a couple of racks of ribs on the propane barbecue to kind of show you how you can smoke using a propane barbecue, but I had some time limitations today, so I thought I would instead do this chicken drum cooking video, and I will be cooking and smoking them on my Weber charcoal kettle. To begin with, I'll be putting some rub onto these chicken drums. I'll be putting the Killer Hogs AP rub, which is basically salt, pepper, and garlic, and then I will be using their Killer Hogs hot barbecue rub because I like my chicken hot. So I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, so first of all, we start off with the AP rub. This chicken has been sitting out, defrosting, so they're a little bit wet, so that they'll hold some of that rub on there. If the chicken isn't wet, you can always put some Worcestershire sauce or something on that just to kind of moisten it up so that it can hold the rub better. And now we'll do the hot barbecue. And then I will flip them over and do the same on the other side. As I said in my previous cooking video, never rub a rub, otherwise you'll get uneven distribution. Okay, so now we'll set up the Weber kettle to cook. Okay, so we're getting ready to light up our barbecue. You'll see I've got my charcoal in this cone-shaped object. This is called a vortex, and what the vortex does is it funnels all the heat to the center, and so the heat will rise up to hit the roof of the barbecue, and then it will kind of cascade down over the chicken wings. So right now I've got my starter cubes in the vortex. I've got some old charcoal from a previous cook at the bottom. I put some fresh charcoal on the top. I'll light these starter cubes, and then I'll put some fresh charcoal around it to help it light up. It'll take about 20 minutes to fully light the barbecue and get ready to go. Charcoal barbecue, that's one of the drawbacks, but the benefits, the taste of the food and from the cooking overcomes that. So with charcoal you want to be patient, but if you are patient then you will be able to drive more from the barbecue experience. Well, the charcoal's lit, but we're still waiting it to get up to temperature. I just wanted to point out something for those of you not familiar with Weber kettles. Beneath these charcoal there are some holes that allow air in through the bottom, and so those are fully open. You have a little fan underneath there that allows us to get rid of ash and catches it in a bucket underneath, but that also closes up those holes to control the amount of air that flows through the bottom. At the top of the vent of the cover, there's also air hole vent here that we can control the size, the flow of air. So air comes up through the bottom, feeds the coals, gives them heat, and then it escapes, comes up through these holes here and exhausts. So the idea is that the greater the size of the hole on the bottom, the vent, the more that is open in the bottom, the more air gets through, feeds those coals and gets them hot, and also the amount of air venting that you have at the top allows it to be hotter. So if we wanted to control the temperature, we just control this amount of air that we're letting in and letting out. For this cook, we're going to leave the vents fully open, both at the top and the bottom, so we can get the maximum amount of heat. Okay, so here we go. The charcoal is lit and ready to go. So we're just going to grease up the grate, put the grate in. So we'll just grease it up. Now a lot of people will say, well, you should grease your meat and not the grate. The problem with that is that when you're using a rub, if you put the oil on the rub, it washes the rub off. So there is a safe way of doing it. Don't take your Pam spray and spray the grate or you'll get flare-ups. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I've got a rag that I've rolled up and tied off with butcher's twine and a little bit of oil, and I'm going to use some tongs and I'm going to cover the cooking area of the grate with oil so that we won't get those flare-ups. Okay, so this is embarrassing. It's the next day. I'm currently editing the video and it looks like I forgot to press record as I was putting the chicken on the barbecue. So just to describe what I did is I put the chicken around the outside of the barbecue, alternating with the chicken meat towards the center where the heat is, and the chicken bone. You'll see that later in the video. And after I put the chicken on, I took a piece of pecan wood and I put the pecan wood in the center of the grate, right above the vortex where the heat is coming from. And so that pecan wood would start to smolder and create smoke to give flavor to the chicken meat. And so, as I said before, that the heat from the vortex will send the heat up. It'll hit the dome of the barbecue lid, and then it'll disperse the heat down and over top of the chicken. This is what we call indirect cooking, indirect heat. You're not putting the chicken directly over the vortex, because that would cause the chicken to burn very quickly and dry out. You want to get the barbecue very hot, but you're not getting radiant heat from the fire, rather you're getting a convection heat from the dome of the barbecue lid. Okay, so now that first 15 minutes is up, I'm going to remove the lid here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this piece of wood off to the side, because with all the oxygen it might start on fire if it remains over the coals. And I'm just going to flip these over. I have a liner underneath these gloves, so I'm not directly touching the drums. So it's kind of helping me deal with the heat. You can use tongs, it's just the tongs are, with drums it's difficult with tongs. They'll slip it out of you. It's hard to grab hold, and this is just a lot quicker and easier this way. And so now I'll move the piece of wood back into the center and replace this. And so I'll be back out in another 15 minutes to flip the chicken again, and at that time I will check the internal temperature. I'm shooting for an internal temperature of 165 for the drums. With regards to these gloves, especially during the coronavirus, people am I hoarding gloves? I've had these gloves for well over a year now. I've used them for cooking. It makes things easier. You don't have to do as much cleaning of your hands if you use them properly. Okay, so as we're waiting for the chicken to cook, I would like to talk to you about something that I mentioned early on in the video, and namely when I was talking about the patience required when cooking with charcoal. Patience, as we hear very often said, is a virtue, and it is a virtue, and it's one of the lesser virtues, meaning that it's subordinate to some of the greater virtues, and in particularly it's subordinate to two other of these great virtues. It's subordinate to one of the cardinal virtues, which is fortitude, as well as to one of the theological virtues, and that is of hope. Now, with regards to the cardinal virtue of fortitude, patience is subordinate to this, and this might not be something that we'd immediately put together, because another word for fortitude is courage, and often when we're thinking about courage, we're thinking about fighting and battling evil. And this is what fortitude is, that it is the moderation of our fear of something that evil happening to us, and we are to overcome that fear and to struggle and to strive to overcome that evil. But sometimes it's not that easy. Sometimes we don't have an evil to fight against, and that's when patience comes in, and that's how patience relates to this our current situation right now. With the coronavirus, we have no specific person or thing to fight against, and so that is when we have to be patient, and it calls for endurance, to endure the current evil until such time that we can overcome it. And so as Christians, as Catholics, we are called to patience at this time, to the virtue of fortitude at this time, to brave this current situation and do what we can. And we do that by being patient, and as we abide in our homes, doing the small little bit that we can to make sure that our hospitals and our health services are not overburdened, and that we flatten the curve, as we've often heard said. Now, when regards to the theological virtue of hope, well, hope is a joyful expectation of something good that is to come in the future. And it is not a good that we can attain on our own. We don't hope for something that we can get by ourselves. We look to something or someone outside of ourselves to bring about this good. And particularly in a time of struggle and every time of trial, we look to others in hope and longing expectation. And we can say this, of course, of our healthcare workers, as they are more on the front lines. They are actually battling while we are enduring. They are battling this virus. And we can hope in them that with their expertise,
that they have in their knowledge, that they are able to remain healthy, remain safe, and to help those who are struggling and those who are potentially dying of this disease, of this virus. So we can hope in them, but ultimately that hope belongs to God. God gave them the intellect and the skill that they have nurtured and fostered on their own, but they intellect is not something that we give ourselves. It's that capacity that we have for knowledge and learning is something that we receive from our birth. It's we can nurture it and foster it and direct it to specific learnings, but as we know, there's other people who have limited capacity for intellect and knowledge, and there are people with greater capacity. And so God has given them this gift, this ability, but also when it comes to the end, when we can hope in so many things throughout our lives, we can hope in that, they are the latest toy, the latest gadget will give us some sort of comfort and peace. But all those things, those material things that we place our hopes in, when it comes to the end of our lives, we can no longer hope in those things. We can no longer turn to those things to bring about salvation. What has been found in many hospitals throughout time and throughout history, that even on the verge and among the cusp of death, there is a hope that remains and a hope that abides in the human person. Even amongst people who are not people of faith, they still have a hope that's in them. And it's not a hope in any earthly things, because they've stripped all those things away. They stripped away all the layers of those material things that they've hoped in. And they may not know who or what they're placing that hope in, but in reality, that hope of deliverance that we are hoping for, that to bring us out of our sufferings and our trials and our burdens, that is a hope that we have in God. And so it is important that during this time that we endure, we be strong and courageous in our fortitude, and it's also important that we do not lose hope, that we turn to God, knowing that He can deliver us from any misfortune, any ailment. He is our Lord, that He is our Savior.
Okay, another 15 minutes is up, and we'll flip these chicken wings around. You're seeing a nice darker color. Move that out of the way again. Starting to see a lot less smoke coming from this, so I might put it on another piece of wood. But right now, I just want to check the internal temperatures. I've got this internal thermometer, which the battery seems to be dying. Okay, here we go. And check again, we want to see a temperature of 165. Just be careful not to touch the bone. So actually that's doing well. And that's one of the bigger ones, so it might be done here. Just check a few more. Yep. You always want to check the bigger ones. Yeah, so the bigger ones will take longer to cook, so if they're all reading above 165. They're all doing quite well, so I'm going to take these off. So we'll take those inside. Now there's a lot of good charcoal still in there. We want to cut, we want to stop the fire. So what we do is we turn this grate so there's no airflow exiting, and it's close the grates, the vents underneath, and that will starve make sure that your lid is on tight, and that will starve the coal of oxygen, and within the next 45 minutes to an hour those coals will be distinguished, and we can use them again later on for another cook.
So here we go. Here's our close-up shot of our completed chicken wings. I will take you back, and so you can see me enjoying it like most people, for whatever reason, want to see online barbecuers taste their food. So I will give you a shot of that. So here we are. I'll take this nice big one, bring it up closer for you to see. It's nice and juicy, thoroughly cooked. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but it's got a nice little smoke ring. What a smoke ring is the outside of the chicken starts, or whatever meat you're cooking is being smoked, will start to take on a reddish color. And so that doesn't mean it's undercooked. There's a chemical reaction that happens in the meat that takes on a pinkish color or reddish color when you're cooking. So if the outside is pink but the inside is white, or whatever color it ought to be if it's fully cooked, then it means that you've got you cooked it thoroughly through, but you've also but you've got a nice smoke ring, and you can very much taste the pecan smoke in this. So we got the flavor from the rub and a little bit of a spice. It's not ultra spicy, but it gives it a little bit of a flavor bite, and you've also got the taste of the pecan smoke coming through. And that's going to make for a very good dinner. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, this is just a kind of more lighthearted. This is what Father Allyn's doing during his social distancing. Maybe you can share in the comments section some of the things that you're doing to keep yourself busy, keep yourself occupied while you're social distancing. And make sure that if you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe, hit the subscribe button. There's a little bell that you can press as well. That will make sure that you get notified when the new video hits our parish YouTube page. Thank you, and God bless.